Ahoy, my friends. Welcome aboard the AfroTales podcast. I'm your storyteller, Aman Mazinga. Join me as we explore the tales that grew from the people of indigenous and African descent in the Americas and the Caribbean. After, come and see me, chef, who will impart upon you a recipe for the story you have just heard. So with no further ado, let us set sail on this new age of exploration. The Great Kapok Tree. Two men walked into the rainforest. Moments before, the forest had been alive with sounds of squawking birds and howling monkeys. Now, all was quiet as the creatures watched the two men and wondered why they had come. The larger man stopped and pointed to the great kapok tree. Then he left. The smaller man took the axe he carried and struck the trunk of the tree. Whack, whack, whack. The sounds of the blows rang through the forest. The wood of the tree was very hard. Chop, chop, chop. The man wiped off the sweat that ran down his face and neck. Whack, chop, whack, chop. Soon the man grew tired. He sat down to rest at the foot of the great kapok tree. Before he knew it, the heat and hum of the forest had lulled him to sleep. The boa constrictor lived in the kapok tree. He slithered down its trunk to where the man was sleeping. He looked at the gash the axe had made in the tree. Then the huge snake slid very close to the man and hissed in his ear. "Senor, this tree is a tree of miracles. It is my home, where generations of my ancestors have lived. Do not chop it down." A bee buzzed in the sleeping man's ear. "Senor, my hive is in the kapok tree, and I fly from tree to tree and flower to flower, collecting pollen. In this way, I pollinate the trees and flowers throughout the rainforest. You see, all living things depend on one another." A troop of monkeys scampered down from the canopy of the kapok tree. They chattered in the sleeping man's ear. "Senor, we have always seen the ways of man. You chop down one tree and then come back for another and another. The roots of the great trees will wither and die, and there will be nothing left to hold the earth in place. When the heavy rains come, the soil will be washed away and the forest will become a desert." A toucan, a macaw, and a cock of the rock flew down from the canopy. "Senor," squawked the toucan, "you must not cut down this tree. We have flown over the rainforest and seen what happens once you begin to chop down the trees. Many people settle on the land. They set fires to clear the underbrush, and soon the forest disappears. Where once there was life and beauty, only black and smoldering ruins remain." A bright and small tree frog crawled along the edge of a leaf. In a squeaky voice, he piped in the man's ear. "Senor, a ruined rainforest means ruined lives. Many ruined lives." You will leave many of us homeless if you chop down the great kapok tree. A jaguar had been sleeping along a branch in the middle of the tree. Because his spotted coat blended into the dappled light and shadows of the understory, no one had noticed him. Now he leapt down and padded silently over to the sleeping man. He growled in his ear, Senor, the kapok tree is home to many birds and animals. If you cut it down, where will I find my dinner? 4 tree porcupines swung down from branch to branch and whispered to the man, Senor, do you know what we animals and humans need in order to live? Oxygen. And Senor, do you know what trees produce? Oxygen. If you cut down the forest, you will destroy that which gives us all life. Several anteaters climbed down the kapok tree with their youngs clinging to their backs. The unstriped anteater said to the sleeping man, Senor, you are chopping down this tree with no thought of the future. And surely you know what happens tomorrow depends on what you do today. The big man tells you to chop down a beautiful tree. He does not think of his own children, who tomorrow must live in a world without trees. A 3-toed sloth had begun climbing down the canopy when the men first appeared. Only now did she reach the ground. Plodding ever so slowly over to the sleeping man, she spoke her deep and lazy voice. Senor, how much is beauty worth? Can you live without it? If you destroy the beauty of the rainforest on what would you feast your eyes? A child from the Yanomamo tribe who lived in the rainforest knelt over the sleeping man. He murmured in his ear, Senor, when you awake, please look upon all of us with new eyes. The man awoke with a start. Before him stood the rainforest child, and all around him, staring, were the creatures who depended upon the great kapok tree. What wondrous and rare animals they were. The man looked about and saw the sun streaming through the canopy. Spots of bright light glowed like jewels amidst the dark green forest. Strange and beautiful plants seemed to dangle in the air, suspended from the great kapok tree. The man smelled the fragrant perfume of their flowers. He felt the steamy mist rising from the forest floor. But he heard no sound, for the creatures were strangely silent. The man stood and picked up his axe. He swung back his arm as though to strike the tree. Suddenly he stopped. He turned and looked at the animals and the child. He hesitated. Then he dropped the axe and walked out of the rainforest. The end. Wow. So this was a great story. I really love the story. I love the Amazon. This book, The Great Kapok Tree, A Tale of the Amazon Rainforest by Lynne Cherry. She has a couple author's notes in here that I want to give you real quick. The first is at the beginning of the book. It says, in the Amazon rainforest, it is always hot, and in the heat, everything grows and grows and grows. The tops of the trees in the rainforest are called the canopy. The canopy is a sunny place that touches the sky. The animals that live there like lots of sun. Colorful parrots fly from tree to tree. Monkeys leap from branch to branch. The bottom of the rainforest is called the understory. The animals that live in the understory like darkness. There, silent snakes curl around hanging vines. Graceful jaguars watch and wait. And this is the steamy environment that the great kapok tree shoots up through the rainforest and emerges above the canopy. This is the story of a community of animals that live in one such tree in the rainforest. The others is a dear readers. She says, I wrote the great kapok tree to let the world know what happens to the rainforest creatures and the entire planet when rainforests are destroyed. I hope that after reading this book, you will help save the rainforest. The great kapok tree is about the Amazon rainforest, a tropical rainforest, but we have a temperate rainforest in the Pacific Northwest of the United States that we must protect too. Please care for Mother Earth. Together, we can make a difference. Lynne Cherry. This book, a lot of people don't like edutainment, and obviously that this is what this story kind of is. But in the back of the book, in the front, she has a picture of all the animals and all of the rainforests that are still, dark green being the rainforests that are present, light green being the original extent of the rainforest. And if you look around, it shows how in Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and everything like that, how much of the rainforest has been chopped down. Like in Indochina, there's almost none left. Much of the rainforest in the Amazon and Central America and Africa has been chopped down also. Australia completely lost any of their tropical rainforest that they had. And it makes me a little sad because as we chop down these rainforests, these suppliers of oxygen I know people will say, well, the ocean and algae and other things like that produce even more oxygen than the rainforest. Well, that's because it covers a larger space. But we don't chop down algae. Are we utilizing too much water? Yes. But as we chop down these rainforests, these animals lose a home. It'd be like somebody coming in to your town and, oh, we want to build a road here. Let's chop down these homes. You see what I'm saying? You see the connection. Just as government officials decide on building new roads and they tear up your communities and build new parks and destroy whole villages. I'm talking about you, Seneca. We're doing the same thing to the rainforest around the world. To animals. These animals that we love and enjoy. But when we destroy ecosystems for animals, we destroy ecosystems for ourselves. Also, we are symbiotic, meaning we live off each other whether we know it or not. Just like if you are a child and your mom stops cooking or your dad stops cooking, how will you survive? No more sustenance. You can try to find it other places, but will you find the nutrients that you need, that your family prepares for you on a regular day basis? That is the rainforest. That is Mother Earth for us. I know this sounds like preaching to you guys today. I don't mean to do that, but I just wanted to make that known. Save the rainforest around the world. Save Mother Earth in general. We shouldn't have to look for another Earth to live on when we have a perfectly good one here. All right? I don't have much for this story. Just remember to save the rainforest. And until next time, my friends, thank you for coming and listening and being on this journey with me. Go see Chef. He has a wonderful recipe for you. And as always, have a blessed day. Welcome, my friends, to the Galley. I am your chef, and today we have a wonderful recipe inspired by the story you have just heard. Today, we will be creating Bolo de Fubá, or Brazilian corn cake. Now, what do we need for this delicious recipe? 1 cup all-purpose flour, plus a little bit extra for dusting the pan. 2 cups of cornmeal, fine. 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, half a cup of granulated sugar, 3 large eggs separated, 1 cup of vegetable oil or canola oil, you'll decide. 1 cup of milk, whole 2% or 1%. Optional, powdered confectioner's sugar for dusting. Now, how do we put this together? Easy. First, preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Oil or spray with cooking spray a burnt can and then dust with flour. Now, mix dry ingredients. In a medium mixing bowl, mix the flour, cornmeal, baking powder, and salt and set aside. Then, separate the eggs. If you have not done so, separate the egg whites from the yolks. The whites going into a medium mixing bowl for whipping up, and the yolks going into a large mixing bowl. Set aside the egg whites to the large mixing bowl with the yolks. Whisk in the sugar until smooth. Next, whisk in the milk and oil. Finally, whisk in the flour mixture. Now, using a hand mixer, whip the egg whites until soft peaks have formed. Then gently fold into the batter. Pour the batter into the oiled burnt pan. Bake for 30 minutes or until a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean. Cool the cake in the pan for 15 minutes. Then gently run a knife around the outside of the cake inside the pan and flip the cake out into your hands and gently place it right side up onto a serving platter to continue cooling. You can dust with powdered sugar if you want. And that is it, my friends. Now, go. Make this recipe yours. And until I have another wonderful recipe for you, remember, we need the Amazon. And until the next time, my friends, as always, enjoy. Thank you, my friends, for coming on this voyage. Thanks to Art by Chalet for the logo, episode, and shirt designs. You can get t-shirts and other items on tpublic.com. You can contact me on all socials at AfroTalesCast. That's AfroTalesCast. And email me at AfroTalesCast@gmail.com. You may also become a benefactor by simply sharing with any and everyone, giving a thumbs up, a 5-star rating and review in your podcast app of choice, or simply donating on Patreon or Ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com. So until we meet again, may your winds be fair and your seas follow.